I'm wondering, and I've heard it a million times, but I still struggle with grasping it.
Mm-hmm.
Saying the truth, God's truth, like when you would overeat or emotional eat, and God would say, you're not an emotional eater.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yes, I am.
Yeah.
How did you start to believe his truth? I mean, did you just say, keep renewing your mind? God says, I'm not an emotional eater. Soul, Sophia, I'm not did you speak to yourself? Like, how did you get from what he said into believing it?
I think
All done.
So I took 2 years to get, I actually thought I'd heard this wrong personally, but every time I'd go back to that journal entry, it would say, God said you are free from emotional eating. But as Shelby said there, I was still eating emotionally, and I just didn't believe. But that's the point I'm trying to say. I didn't actually didn't believe at the time that God speaks from my position. I didn't actually know that. So as I started to grow in recognizing that God actually does speak the end of a thing from the beginning, like his word says, right? As I started to renew my mind, I was like, hold on, I think this could be true. So how did I do it? So I made up in my mind that I accept fully that I'm just not an emotional eater. So I would speak out loud that I'm not an emotional eater. I used to come into Taste for Truth classes back in the day when I was just a member, an attendee, and online, and I'd say, you know what, I just really am an emotional eater. I'm just an emotional eater. And I just started. Even my mom. So my mom, sadly, was a big person that would tell me, "You're an emotional eater, though. You eat for emotions. That's what you do. You just eat. That's what you do." And I kept on, I think, believing it. After a while, I just said to her, you know what? I believe I'm free from this. And I just told her once and for all. And I started making that become my everyday vocabulary until now I know about speaking to my soul, Shelby. If I knew that then, I think I would have got through this a lot quicker. So now when I'm trying to renew my mind on something, I will tell my soul, you are free from this. You just need to get into the reality of it, that this is the position that you're in. But I would speak it. And then I wasn't 100% sure if I fully was experiencing it yet, but God got me to write a testimony of me being free from emotional eating and how I overcame it. Okay. And so that helped as well. And then I started telling people, which was the truth at that point, but I had to reinforce it, that I am free from emotional eating, and I am. And I just would keep on taking it back to the Lord every time I was unsure. And the Lord would keep saying to me, I'm telling you again, you're not an emotional eater. This is what you may have a problem with, but this is not it anymore. And at Shelby, I also had, a bit of a visionary encounter where I definitely know that the Lord that was definitely removed from me, from my life as well. So when it becomes real like that, then there's no kind of question of that. And in some of the things I did as well, Shelby, and to anybody else, the emotional, and again, if you notice what I just said, went to say my emotional eating. I changed it to saying the emotional eating. Didn't start until I started having PTSD, post-traumatic, after the car accident. And I spent a lot of time giving that situation over to the Lord. What happened? That I don't, that I had kind of abused food. My soul had abused food to cope. And I kind of repented and said, God, you know what? I'm so sorry that I used food as a substitute, or tried to replace you for food. Does that make sense? And you know, Shelby, we talked earlier about, now I ask myself things like, is this pleasing to God? Because God can be displeased in things we do. And my question I've started to ask myself is, does the thought of God being displeased in an action displease you? Does it cause you to feel grieved, right? Because if it doesn't, then that's an indicator that something in your relationship with the Lord might be a bit off. Because the Bible says, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. So, you know, that's something. And I started saying prayers like, Lord, let what moves you move me. What makes your heart move and your heart beat in a certain direction, let it be my heart too. And so I wanted that connection, so I'm not so far, I'm so close to his heart that I know in my heart whether he's unhappy about something. Not condemning, not like, you naughty child, not like that, just that moving, that slight disappointment that I just don't want to experience. So I hope that helps. It's kind of been progressive. That's why I can say that now.